Stories that time forgot.
France lights its cities with the energy of a country living in absolute darkness. This is the 21st century Cold War for African uranium. Nobody in Paris noticed when the first uranium truck left the Arlit mine without a French military escort, not until Nigerian guards sealed the facility gates with Chinese flags waving over the watchtowers. You, listening to me now from the comfort of a screen powered by electricity, must know that the world's balance of power just changed hands in the middle of the Sahara Desert. On July 19, 2023, at 3:47 a.m., a convoy of 18 articulated trucks pulled out of the Arlit uranium mine in northern Niger. The vehicles, painted in the green, white, and red of the Nigerian flag, carried 260 tons of yellow-cake uranium concentrate. Imagine that cargo. It is enough to manufacture nuclear fuel for 6 power reactors for an entire year. The destination was the port of Katana in Benin. But what made this shipment historic wasn't the radioactivity of the load, it was the absence of what had always accompanied Nigerian uranium: French soldiers. For 63 years, since Niger's independence in 1960, every gram of uranium extracted from its soil had been escorted, processed, and exported under the supervision of the French state company Areva, now known as Urano. That convoy without blue uniforms marked the end of an energy empire and the start of a new Cold War for the mineral that fuels both civilian reactors and nuclear weapons: African uranium. Have you ever wondered where the energy that keeps your world turned on actually comes from? Africa holds 19% of the world's known uranium reserves. Niger possesses 750,000 metric tons, the fourth largest deposit on the planet, concentrated in a desert where temperatures exceed 50 degrees Celsius and water is more valuable than gold. Namibia has 210,000 tons. Mali, 110,000. Tanzania and Zambia possess emerging reserves not yet fully mapped by Western geologists. But for decades, this treasure did not benefit the countries that hold it beneath their feet. France, the colonial power that drew the borders of its African colonies specifically to include mineral deposits, structured independence agreements that guaranteed preferential access to strategic resources. The 1964 Franco-Nigerian Cooperation Treaty included a secret clause, declassified only in 2016, which granted France perpetual first option rights over all underground energy resources. The company paid Niger $65 per kilogram of concentrated uranium, while the international market price was $130. The difference, about $160 million annually, silently funded the French military Operation Barkhane in the Sahel. A vicious cycle was created where France protected the mines that funded its own military presence. The system worked as long as political control was absolute. But in 2020, China began to erode the foundations of this Gallic nuclear empire. The state-owned China National Nuclear Corporation, or CNNC, offered Niger a radically different deal: $120 per kilogram, local processing technology, and the construction of a uranium conversion plant in Niamey. The Chinese did not demand permanent military bases or interference in internal affairs. They offered resources for resources without the historical weight of colonialism. The Nigerian government faced an impossible choice: loyalty to France or economic sovereignty with the Asian giant. Tensions boiled over in 2022. The French company threatened to withdraw its logistical support for the Nigerian armed forces if the government signed with CNNC. Beijing responded by offering free surveillance drones and anti-aircraft defense systems. The United States, fearing that Nigerian uranium would end up in Chinese reactors, pressured to maintain the established order. Amidst this triangle of pressure, the Nigerian people protested in the streets of the capital. They wondered why their uranium-fueled reactors in Paris, while their hospitals had no electricity. You should know that 80% of Nigerians live without access to the national power grid. The Arlit mines generate enough energy for the entire region, but that electricity is used exclusively to process uranium destined for Europe. Furthermore, nearby towns suffer from childhood cancer rates 3 times higher than the average due to unregulated radioactive contamination. France never installed radiation monitors in schools. China promised to do so. On July 26, 2023, a military coup changed the board for good. The generals of the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland were nationalists who had studied in Russian and Chinese military academies. Their first decree was to expel French military forces. The second was to cancel mining contracts. The third was to temporarily nationalize the mines until they could renegotiate the terms. France withdrew its last soldiers on December 18, 2023. Just 5 days later, a delegation from the China National Nuclear Corporation signed an agreement to operate the mines alongside the Nigerian state company, Sopamin. The price was set at $115 per kilogram with an automatic adjustment to the international market. However, France did not retreat quietly. In January 2024, the French government activated a powerful legal clause. Any unilateral change in contracts triggered a sovereign debt of €3 billion. France sued Niger before the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes in Washington, D.C. The case could result in the seizure of Nigerian assets in Europe. China responded by offering Niger a $3.5 billion bridge loan to pay off the French debt, on the condition that mining rights pass to a joint venture. It was a geopolitical checkmate. Niger had to choose between losing its mines to France through the courts or losing them to China through finance. While Niger fights for its sovereignty, Namibia faces a parallel battle with devastating environmental consequences. The Rössing mine is the largest open-pit uranium mine in the world. For 48 years, it has dumped radioactive wastewater into the Kan River, contaminating the aquifer that supplies 200,000 inhabitants. A study by the University of Cape Town found radiation levels in drinking water 300% higher than the World Health Organization as safe limits. The operating company argues that local standards are different. Meanwhile, the Namibian government granted exploration licenses to 3 Chinese companies to operate in adjacent areas. The Cold War for African uranium has no clear ideology. It is a clash between 3 extraction models that you must understand to grasp the present. The French model is based on direct state control. The Anglo-Saxon model prioritizes corporate profitability. The Chinese model offers aggressive state financing. None of the 3 models has achieved what African countries truly need. Niger's uranium fuels 40% of France's electricity, but less than 2% of homes in Niger have stable light. The historical irony is deep and painful. African uranium helped France build its independent nuclear capacity to avoid depending on the United States. Today, that same uranium could free Africa from energy poverty if the benefits stayed there. But current agreements usually replicate the colonial logic of extracting raw resources. By the year 2025, the International Energy Agency projects that global uranium demand will grow by 60%. Countries like India, Saudi Arabia, and Poland plan to build 56 new reactors in the next decade. Africa could be the great beneficiary, but only if it manages to break the cycle. Countries like Kazakhstan already process their own uranium and earn 3 times more revenue than Niger. Today, while generals negotiate in closed offices and mining communities continue to drink contaminated water, the world's energy transition is being built on a historical injustice. This is the reflection I want to leave you with today. If you knew the electricity you are using right now comes from uranium that poisons children, would you demand transparency? Would you be willing to pay more for your energy if it meant a village in Niger had the right to clean water and equipped hospitals? Your opinion is vital to us, so please, tell us in the comments what you think about this moral and geopolitical dilemma. We want to read your thoughts and generate a real debate on the hidden cost of our progress. Like and subscribe to discover more stories time forgot.